let's start with Iran. So demonstrations continue in Iran. If anything, they really do seem to be intensifying, and all over Iran now. There are reports now of protests in over 108 towns and cities across Iran. Now, this is a challenge for the regime to have the kind of troops and people to be able to suppress all these demonstrations all over the country. Now, of course, if they do a oppressive enough job in Tehran, that'll send a signal, and it'll die out. This revolution will be won or lost in the streets of Tehran at the end of the day, with other cities basically falling in line with whatever happens there. There are all kinds of stories out there that basically are questioning, claiming that demonstrators have taken control over certain cities, including, shockingly, if this was true, I don't know if it's true, the city of Qom. Qom is not that far from Tehran, but Qom is a major city, but it's primarily known as kind of the spiritual home of the Islamic revolution. This is where the big madrasas, the schools, where the mullahs sit, where much of the religious authority comes from. Political authority, Tehran, religious authority really comes out of Qom. The idea that Qom would fall to these demonstrators would be quite shocking if it's indeed the case. But you have to be careful of these kind of claims. There's a lot of claims out there. But what we really do not know, fog of war, all of that is all true. The protesters the protests generally are getting more violent. Both on the side of demonstrators. In some cities, demonstrators have got their hands on weapons and using them. There are a number of videos online showing demonstrators actually ambushing security forces, beating them up, and taking their weapons. And that's how they are gaining weapons. So that is happening. Security forces are also starting to shoot at demonstrators, and I expect that part of it to get worse in the days to come. I expect the security forces to get more brutal as we move forward. In past demonstrations, in past years, hundreds and in some thousands of people were slaughtered by the regime as part of suppressing the demonstrations, and then many thousands were slaughtered afterwards in kangaroo courts and trials where they all received the death penalties after the demonstrations were subdued. So I expect more violence, significantly more violence in Iran in the days to come. We still haven't seen what I think is going to be necessary for this to turn into a revolution that actually is successful, that actually overturns this regime and gets rid of the mullahs. For that, I've stated now for several years that you would need one of the military factions, some of the military units, probably within the army, not the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, who are loyalists, not within these. I can't even pronounce their name. These internal security forces. I think it's going to have to be from the regular army. That is, somebody in the regular army has to turn. Somebody in the regular army has to be willing to take their troops and side with the protesters. And to be successful, it's going to have to come from pretty high up. Now, it could be individual soldiers leaving their posts and joining the demonstrators. But ultimately, for this to be successful, it probably has to be people in senior positions. I mean, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard and the other forces that the regime has at their disposal have a lot of weapons. They are brutal, and it's going to have to be something of equivalent size to compete with them. So that has not happened yet. Of course, when that happens, When that happens, I think it'll be a very fast domino effect. I think once the army turns against the regime, or elements within the army turn against the regime, I really think the regime will collapse. I don't think it's sustainable. But we don't know whether that'll happen. My guess is, again, no inside information here, my guess is that is what the son of the Shah, who's in the United States, is working on, is trying to communicate with military officers who might not be that supportive of the regime in an effort to try to get them to turn. Most of them, though, are afraid, they're cowards, and they're not sure they can be successful. At some point, this will tilt. There'll be a tipping point. We won't know when the tipping point happens until after it's happened. But once it's happened, things will go, I think, pretty fast. Indeed, the Times of London today has a detailed story that basically lays out Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader, Ali Khamenei's plan to flee Tehran if it looks like his security forces cannot quell the civil unrest. Once they stop following orders, or once the military flips on him, he's out of there. And supposedly there is a detailed plan for him and up to 20 aides and families to get on an airplane and fly to Moscow to join there his friend, not really, but his associate, Bashar al-Assad, the Syrian dictator, who fled there in 2024 from Damascus and went to Moscow. Supposedly Khamenei, in planning his escape, would gather, this is from the story, would gather assets, properties abroad, and cash to facilitate their safe passage. As I've told you in the past, the Iranian elite of this regime have assets all over the world. They are particularly invested in Canada, a strong presence in Toronto, Canada. So if this regime falls, I wouldn't be surprised to find some of the generals and the mullahs and the Islamic Revolutionary Guard officers roaming the streets of Toronto. So beware, be careful. They have smuggled money out. They have been stealing from the Iranian people for decades and funneling money into all kinds of assets and all kinds of properties and bank accounts all over the world. They have always been ready to escape, and here they are. They are indeed ready to escape. So according to the Times, these plans are in motion. He's not ready to leave yet because, as I said, the army really hasn't turned on him yet. But he is definitely ready for that outcome and prepared for it. On betting markets right now, as of a few days ago, the odds of Khamenei being outed as supreme leader by December 31st, 2026. As of, I'd say, December was around 30%, maybe 31, 32%, maybe up to 33% in some periods. But basically down there, as of today, I think it's today. It's not clear exactly what the date is. It might be yesterday. Those odds are up above 42%. So dramatic increase in the odds that Khamenei will not be there by the end of 2026. I mean, look, I fear that it's either going to happen now or it's not going to happen. That is, if you could kind of play this kind of a hedging, not a hedging game, but if there were odds on what would happen by the end of this month, I think it either happens by the end of this month or it doesn't happen. Although he could die and he could be replaced in other means, but this particular by revolution that replaces this regime, not just him, but this regime, it's going to be now. This is the best chance the Iranian people have had. Israel set them up for this. I mean, the Girls' Revolution set them up. Israel then really showed the weakness of this regime and weakened it further because Israel killed hundreds, maybe thousands of the regime operatives that would have been used to suppress these riots. And this is it. I really do think it's now, not never, but now or a long, long time from now. Now is the time. Now's the time to do it. Again, news reports are that riots continue to escalate in cities across Iran. The capital of Tehran, where demonstrators have now armed themselves, according to some reports, with rifles and other weapons. Minor clashes with Iranian security forces in Tehran. We will see how this all plays out. Of course, the big question at this point is, does Israel or does the Trump administration do something here? The Islamic regime is clearly concerned that Israel and or the United States are going to engage in military action against Iran. The military action against Venezuela has made them even more afraid. They now fear that Trump might have this aggressive foreign policy and is willing to use force. There's also significant movement of U.S. military assets, primarily airplanes, including Delta Force, a plane out of the Delta Force base that actually executed the mission in Venezuela. One of those, a plane, who knows who's on it, but assuming a Delta Force is on it, has landed in Europe. A number of other cargo planes, large military cargo planes, fuel tankers, and fighter jets are basically on the way or already arrived in Europe. We haven't seen this amount of movement of assets, military assets, Air Force assets, really since the 12-Day War. So there is some reason to believe that the U.S. is considering some kind of military action, or at least upping the pressure on the Iranians by putting assets around them. And maybe what the U.S. is doing is through back channels, telling the Iranians, all right, Khamenei, this is what they did with Maduro after all. Okay, Khamenei, you can leave. We'll let you leave. Safe passage to Moscow. But we will not provide that safe passage forever. And if you wait for too long, you will suffer the consequences. We have the assets in the region. We can deploy them. And you won't survive. Indeed, President Trump has issued a second warning to Iran yesterday, I guess, or this morning. He said the regime would be hit very hard if its forces kill protesters. Now, as I said, protesters are already being killed. Well, it's still in the kind of couple of dozen probably. So it hasn't reached huge numbers, but it's there. There's no question that these forces are being killed. Trump said this while answering a question on Air Force One. Let's see. In addition, Israel. Let me just see. I'm not sure that's a correct report. Israel has stated that there are rumors out of Israel that Israel is preparing an attack on Iran. They've actually got a name for it and everything. Indeed, opposition leaders in Israel are telling Netanyahu that if he launches an attack on Iran, he will have the full support of the opposition. So opposition leaders, kind of quote the left, supposedly, it's not really a left, opposition leaders in Israel are urging Netanyahu to go after the Iranians, encouraging him, if he doesn't have Trump's support, to go back to Washington to get it, and saying that they have his back. That is, they hate him on everything else. They want to get rid of him. They want an election. They're fighting him tooth and nail over other issues in Parliament right now as we speak. And at the same time, they've issued declarations that Israel needs to attack Iran, and if the Prime Minister would get complete support from the opposition, if they do engage in an attack on Iran. So it does look likely, again, that Israel is at least preparing something. Now, again, this could be all more psychological than real, in a sense that this could be part of a psychological campaign to try to convince Khamenei to just leave. And this is just bluffing, as they say in poker, in order to get him to leave. We will see. Again, we'll find out in the days to come. Indeed, one of the opposition leaders in a announcement said that this is a kind of a once in a who knows lifetime opportunity. The people in the streets. We need a tipping point. We need something to tip this. We need something to get them. Now, some people are arguing that if Israel and the United States intervene, that'll raise patriotic sentiments against Israel and Iran and in favor of the regime. But that didn't happen during the 12-day war. And it's not clear that it will happen now. If Israel and the United States carefully target regime targets, they could take out Khamenei. They could take him out. They could kill him. They could destroy whatever forces are left for the Islamic Revolutionary Guard. They could take out their bases. They could do the kind of stuff that would reduce the ability of the regime to suppress these riots, and at the same time convey clearly to the rioters that Israel and the United States support what they're trying to do. That would, I think, topple the regime. It would be the tipping point. It would be what ultimately destroys the Iranian regime. Again, I've said this many times over the last few months, really over the last few decades. The fall of the Iranian regime will be the most significant geopolitical event easily since the fall of the Berlin Wall. And in a sense, it would surpass the fall of the Berlin Wall, because the fall of the Berlin Wall at some point was basically inevitable. Russia was no longer, the Soviet Union was no longer a threat to the United States. Once the opening started happening, it was clear there was only one direction that could go. This really could be the most important geopolitical event maybe since the building of the Berlin Wall, since the Cold War started. And it would be immensely positive. It would completely reorient the Middle East, completely change the dynamics in the Middle East. A pro-Western Iran would change the dynamics of the oil market. It would immediately open up one of the largest, free up massive quantities of oil into the market. It would, open up one of the largest oil reserves in the world for future development, and it would take away the number one enemy that Israel has in the Middle East. It would take really the number one enemy Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates have in the region. It would immediately take away the ally of Hezbollah. Hezbollah would collapse. The Lebanese army could then really take over Hezbollah and dismantle it. It would take all support from the Houthis away. The Houthis might collapse or at least be weakened dramatically and not want to create any more problems. I mean, I cannot think of it would put as I said, when did I do the show in Maduro? On Saturday. It would put the Chinese on notice, because now the Chinese would have no way to buy oil from, particularly if Trump follows through on this idea that the United States will control the oil in Venezuela. I'm not sure he can and will, but if he does, then you've taken out Venezuela as a source of oil for China. You've taken out Iran as a source of oil from China. All they have is Russia. Now, they can buy oil on the global market, and they do, and oil will be cheap, and that'll be good for them. But they have to consider that in a war with Taiwan, the West will embargo them. The West will cut off their oil supply. The United States will cut off their oil supply, including Iran and Venezuela. And that, I think, reduces the probability of invading Taiwan dramatically. So, even from the perspective of China, Taiwan, the potential of war in the Western Pacific, in Southeast Asia, even from that perspective, Iran is huge, huge. Now, add to that the fact that Iran is a massive, ally of Russia, supplying it with drones and drone technology, and that goes away, and it weakens Putin. So it's an unequivocal good. I mean, Israel and Iran would establish relationships. The Shah of Iran has already said so. Imagine diplomatic relationship between the Iranians and Israelis, and the potential that have. Iran could become imagine if Iran stops building weapons and nuclear weapons and oppressing its people, and establishes some kind of a free society. Imagine how wealthy this country could become. It not only does it have oil, but it has incredibly, incredible people, entrepreneurial and creative, who've done very, very well in the rest of the world. There is a Iranian diaspora that is incredibly wealthy that would go back and send money. I mean, it would be a flourishing, successful place. And I'd say there was one conflict in the world in which, if Israel and the United States could intervene and tip it towards resolution, and they should, this is it. More important than Ukraine, more important than Venezuela, more important than Cuba, more important than anywhere. Right now, it's Iran, and the easiest one, in a sense, because it doesn't require occupation. It doesn't require much. The people expressing themselves, they want Khamenei dead. They yell, death to Khamenei, death to the dictator. They're yelling this in the streets. You could imagine Khamenei either killed or flown off to Russia, and the Shah coming back, setting up an interim government, and within 6 months you have elections in Iran. I mean, that changes the world. Not like laissez-faire capitalism would, but it changes the world, and it buys all of us who value Western civilization. It buys us time. It weakens the Islamists in Europe. It makes them less passionate, confident, because it takes out the one country ruled by Sharia law. It takes them out. So the various factions in Europe become weaker. The funding for them, much of it goes away. The Iranian funding goes away. We can now focus all our attention on Qatar and getting them to stop the funding and crushing the Muslim Brotherhood. And that's it. And it's over. And the threat of Islam, the threat of Islamism, which is the real threat of Islam, is gone. It doesn't take that much. That's my whole point about Islam doesn't have to be a threat, is that it doesn't take that much because they are weak. And imagine, all these people yelling for Sharia law, and then the one country that has Sharia law, that Sharia law is overturned, is trashed by its own people, by the people living under that Sharia law. So how great could Sharia law be? So hugely powerful message if this actually happens. So let us. We can't pray. I don't pray anyway. You guys maybe can pray. It doesn't help. We can hope. That doesn't help either. We can send our best wishes. We can encourage our politicians to do something. Certainly, Israel should do something. It has a direct, immediate interest in doing so. We should retweet the videos. We should encourage public support for the brave. Oh, and I should end on this. The segment I should end on this. I mean, the people of Iran, the people out going into the streets, the men, women, and young girls and people from all walks of life now. I mean, this really has become broad. It started with shopkeepers, and now it's students and everybody in the middle. It's the middle class. It's the working classes. They're all out there in the streets, and it takes a huge amount of courage. It takes a huge amount of courage. They know what the fate is. They know what the regime has done in the past. They know what this regime is capable of doing. The regime advertises it by hanging people from cranes in the middle of Tehran. Everybody knows how this regime deals with its opponents. They kill them. They slaughter them. And if this doesn't succeed, they'll come after many of these people. Now, there is safety in numbers. And the more people out in the streets, the more likely it is to succeed. The more people out in the streets, the less likely it is that any one of them, any particular one of them, gets in trouble. And they need to sustain the numbers. But it's incredibly brave of these people. Their courage cannot be, you can't overestimate how courageous this is. You remember the Girls' Revolution? I think that's what more courageous, particularly because they were all women. But this is the inevitable, the inevitable sequel to that Girls' Revolution. And I salute the Iranian people, those who are out in the streets, and those who are sitting in their homes twiddling their thumbs should be ashamed and embarrassed. Get some balls and go out there, join your fellow Iranians, demonstrate and bring about the end of this regime. It's about time that this regime is shut down. Shut down, closed off, and the Iranian people are free. And Iran could be a kind of a liberal-style, relatively free place. I mean, there's no laissez-faire capitalism anywhere in the world, but the West is a pretty free place. So this could be like any other Western country, without a king and without a supreme leader, a kind of Western democracy that I think the Iranian people would benefit enormously from, and as I said, the rest of the world would too.